Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into one of the most asked about topics, the discs I bag, the ones I leave behind, and most importantly, where and when to use them. Whether you're trying to build your own bag or just curious about my go-to disc for different situations, you're in the right place. Let's break it all down and help you make smarter throws in Disc Golf Valley. Let's start out with the big bombers, distance drivers. The first disc I have here is the Glide Skip Rive. This disc covers my max distance driver slot, which is a slot that everyone needs when building out a complete competitive bag. This disc is a special one to me because the stamp is from my first ever win on a live Hops and Heiser event back in March of 2023. Initially, the Rive made my bag because it was the unrivaled distance king of the valley when it came out. Now, there are many other options in discs like the Prince, Gold, and World that see a lot of popularity. What I like about the ride and what's kept in my bag is the amount of stability it holds with very little turn out of the hand, and then a very reliable fade as it starts to slow down. Anything that's less stable has a tougher time making the corner on holes like Frozen Valley 9. The Rive is very predictable for me, and I know and trust its flight well. That's why I also bag the Glide Water Skip Rive in my Water Skip distance driver slot. I got this one for a top 10 finish in the first ever Disc Golf Valley Players Tour, which was an 8-week event in March and April of 2024. The overstability of the ride makes it very reliable in making the green for eagle with a water skip on Coyote Canyon 3, in as much as any play is reliable here. In addition, it makes it work on the other main water skip holes of Lakeside 5 and Pioneer Bay 3. Here's the thing about this slot for me. I don't actually think that the Rive is the best water skip disc for the water skip holes. I do just fine going for the long eagle attempt on Coyote Canyon 3 instead of running the tee shot. Lakeside 5 and Pioneer Bay 3 are arguably much easier and more reliable with an understable water skip disc, so you don't have to add so much anhyzer angle. However, throwing a disc with the water skip attribute doesn't need to be only to skip on the water. The other benefit of this disc is you get the Rive flight, but with neutral ground play instead of the big skip. In a sense, the pairing of Glide Water Skip and Glide Skip allow me to throw a disc where I know the flight, but I get to choose my ground play. Those two are the overstable drivers, so I pair them with the understable Paradigm. The first Paradigm in my bag is my baby. It's my Glide Skip Paradigm that I was awarded by Spinoff for being the first player to score minus 18 in the modern iteration of multiplayer back in February of 2024. Thanks, Westy, for the design here. The Glide Skip Paradigm is when I want a maximum straight distance shot. A lot of the Challenge the World courses have narrow and long fairways that call for this type of shot, and it works fantastically on a lot of the Ikigai Enso holes too. I tried out other discs in this slot, like the Enigma and the Voss. Ultimately, my decision to stay with the Paradigm is because I'm used to the flight of it, and I didn't see a noticeable difference in any disc I compared it to. The Paradigm just goes straight. Something like a Captain or a DD is way too understable and can take off to the right, seemingly uncontrollable, while the Paradigm will just go right where I'm aiming. I'd also be lying if I said it had nothing to do with this one having my one of one stamp. My next paradigm is the light glide paradigm. This is one that I earned by shooting minus 40 on the Hobson-Heiser Who's Got 20 layout played twice in a row. This disc is a beauty. The reason this one is in my bag is interesting though. Part of building a bag is making tough decisions about which discs to put in and which to take out. When I wanted to make room for an extra disc, I had to consolidate by choosing one disc that could do the jobs of two. My turn glide rive and my light glide rive fused together to create this light glide paradigm, since the turn is built into the disc mold already. The paradigm doesn't quite have the same distance as the turn glide rive, and not quite as much lift as a light glide rive. However, it does the job of both well enough, and actually allows for some additional forward distance than a light glide rive and a big tailwind. I decided on the paradigm for the slot because I was already familiar with the flight pattern, and it made sense to use a disc I already knew instead of learning something brand new. I'm definitely a fan of mold minimization to help improve consistency. There's one more paradigm in my bag, but we'll come back to that after looking at the fairway drivers. First up is the accurate sticky musket. This is the first sticky fairway driver that ever made it to the game through a celebration of reaching 500 members on the global disc golf Discord server. It's well over 1,000 now. The musket is a long standing staple in many players' bags because of the distance it provides for so many ace runs and setup shots. This musket is good for throw ins up to about 300 feet, and the sticky attribute provides a lot of the stopping power you need to make sure you'll be able to make the comebacker if you miss the basket. I choose sticky over roll for a couple of reasons. One, a disc with roll is more likely to catch edge, stand up, and roll far away from the basket. Sticky discs can still roll away, but they won't roll nearly as far. The second reason is that I actually like the limited rolling, even when I'm throwing on a roller angle. Holes like Crow's Nest 4, where I want the disc to move forward, but it's helpful if it's losing speed as it goes. Next up is the accurate water skip Sapphire. This one is my prize disc from tying for the win with Rauta in the 2024 Mistletoe Open around Christmas time. The thought behind this disc is that it's the longer musket, literally the exact same stats, except it has less drag. This functions very similarly to a glide musket, but I get the added benefit of water skip too. This one is good for throw-ins up to about 310 feet if you're going to use it for that. It has a neutral ground play and will regularly slide up to about 350 feet of total distance. Having a water skip fairway is definitely a luxury and not a must-have. It can open up a few creative lines on holes like Lost Island 4, Frozen Valley 3, and Keho Backwoods 9. But each of those holes have well-established alternative plays that work really well also. If you're trying to cut a spot from your bag, the water skip fairway might be somewhere to look. The main use of this disc for me is the neutral ground play longer musket. Taking this a step further, I also bagged the Accurate Glide Sapphire. This is the banana stamp that I was able to give away in one of my first bonus events. I love seeing other people's banana sapphires flying in multiplayer as well. The Glide Sapphire still holds the crown as the longest flying fairway driver in the game. This matters because distance drivers can't have the accurate attribute, which significantly decreases the wobble and level of randomness on your throw. As the attribute implies, it makes your shots more accurate. Anytime you can choose an accurate disc over a non accurate disc, it's the right call to make. The Glide Sapphire slides up to about 400 feet of total distance. This is plenty of distance on so many holes where someone might otherwise think about throwing a distance driver. This also allows me further mold minimization, since the musket, water skip sapphire, and glide sapphire all follow the exact same flight path but have differing total distances. That minimization makes it easy to make adjustments for wind or elevation. If I usually throw my glide sapphire, but there's a tailwind, I can throw the same shot, but just switch to the water skip sapphire. If I usually throw a musket for a distance, but it's up a steep hill, I can disc up to either sapphire, depending on how steep the hill is. This trio of fairway drivers makes it very easy to cover almost all of my fairway shot distances in the unique situations that arise. Here comes the Accurate Glide Diamond. We know that anytime you can grab an accurate disc, you should. But what if you need the distance of a backhand sapphire, but not the fade? This slot in my bag was initially filled by the MVP Shift as designed by Reese. However, with a Shift out of production in Disc Golf Valley, the Diamond takes the spotlight. As an understable fairway driver with the distance of a sapphire, it pairs nicely with the Glide Sapphire. The Diamond is perfect for shots where you need a straight finish rather than a hard fade in either direction. It absolutely shines on holes like Ikigai Enso 3, where you can more easily finish closer to the edge for your eagle throw in, and Maple Hill 3, for which this disc is practically built. Because the diamond has a light attribute built in, and is understable, I'm able to hit some great shots in tailwinds, and I love throwing it in a strong left to right wind because of the way it just keeps driving forward. Now back to that paradigm. I have the water skip sticky paradigm for my tweener slot. Sometimes you need a little more distance than a sapphire or diamond can provide, but you don't quite need a distance driver. This is where a new type of slot is making its way into pro bags. As the newest disc to my bag, I'm still learning the best place to throw it. It flies a little bit shorter on a backhand than my light glide paradigm on a forehand, so I have a bit of progression from light glide paradigm backhand, light glide paradigm forehand, waterscape sticky paradigm backhand. This tweener has helped me a lot on some specific shots, like Oak Hill 6, where it's absolutely perfect, and Ikigai Springs 9, where my Rive just cuts it too close to the shore for my liking. We'll see more places that this gets used as my game continues to develop with it. My long distance throw in disc is the Accurate Sticky River. Obviously, my preferred gameplay is to get close enough that I don't have to throw in. But when I don't get that close, I need to try to gain strokes from further out. The river is my throw in disc for touchy shots from about 170 feet to 220 feet. I'm most comfortable with it for now at 180 to 200. I use the river for my Sunshine Glade ace runs, mainly because it helps me dial in those distances for out on the other courses. The river first made it into my bag with the eagle attempts on Crow's Nest 9. There's certainly other throw-in options here, but the flight of the river just makes sense to me with the gentle turn and gentle fade, keep it mostly online the entire flight. Next up is the Accurate Glide Warship. I don't bag an overstable 7 speed to complement that river, because the warship fills that slot when I need it on the approach. There are a few ace runs I have for the warship, but its biggest use in my bag is for the low ceiling throw ins, where I need a disc to hold it tight for a long flight to get to the basket. It's best for me at about 220 to 240 feet, and I really see it shine on the second shot on Coyote Canyon 2. However, there's so much overlap in the utility of the warship and the river that the warship will probably be one of the first discs to go if bag slots ever lose their disc type restrictions. We're almost there. For my throw in disc, I have the Accurate Windbreak Fuse, at least my main throw in disc. This disc gives me a huge confidence within 120 feet or so and can extend out to 150 feet for a comfortable bid. I made a whole video on throwing in with this disc. Check that out in the top right corner here. And last, but certainly not, well, maybe kind of least, I have my two putters. They're both utility putters. I have the Harp and the Tempo as overstable approach discs. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these since they're kind of an afterthought to my bag. The Harp is here for its distance as an approach disc. The Tempo has a very similar power line percentages as my Fuse, so I use the Tempo for making blind throw-ins that need to turn a sharp corner. There's not really that much to these putters, and they don't get much use. So there's my bag, at least for now. We'll see what the future brings, and I'll keep you all updated with any major changes.